Welcome to Pulp Tales, fascinating stories of the pulp magazines and the creative minds that brought them to life. The fictioneers, the artists, the editors, and others. Brought to you by the PulpNet. Learn more about the pulp magazines through articles, blogs, bibliographies, links, over 100 episodes of this podcast, and much more at the PulpNet. Your link to the pulp magazines for almost 30 years. Online at thepulp.net.
This one takes the cake for inventiveness.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about it.
Well, they discovered an elasmosaurus on the American West, and that's not good enough for this story. The hero's best friend dies, and he transplants his buddy's brain into the elasmosaurus. It's elasmosaurus with a human brain. Who knew they were so compatible?
Eventually the creature goes mad, and the army comes out with the artillery, U.S. artillery comes and blows him the hell away.
Which might have been a forerunner from all the giant monster movies that you have to bring in.
That's what you generally find. You find these last surviving dinosaurs and we kill them.
In this episode of Pulp Tales, PulpFest's Mike Chomko and artist Mark Schultz delve into pulp paleontology as they look at how dinosaurs were depicted in the pulp magazines. Schultz wrote and drew the award-winning comic book series, Xenozoic Tales, and has illustrated Tarzan and other Edgar Rice Burroughs characters. The panel was part of ERBFest, held in conjunction with PulpFest 2024. This Pulp Tales was recorded in Pittsburgh on Friday, August 2nd, 2024. Mike begins.
Mark Schultz is, I'm sure you all know him. He's a fantastic artist, a great writer, and he got his big start with Xenozoic Tales. Is it Xenozoic or Xeno? Xenozoic Tales, which was basically a world that got all mixed up. There were dinosaurs and human beings all together. A couple of years ago, he came up to me with a gentleman who is a paleontologist in Canada, and they had a great idea, and I had already had programming for the next year planned out, and I said, how about we do it in 2024 when we celebrate the land that time forgot? And they thought it was a good idea. But his partner, another Michael, is out looking for dinosaur bones right now. So you have me instead. Dinosaurs in the pulp. What's paleontology? Study of history of life on Earth based on fossils. And we're going to center around the study of dinosaurs.
And paleontology goes up to 11,700 years ago. After that, it becomes archaeology, because that was the last great extinction before our current extinction. It's happening, yeah.
Okay. Go back to the ancient Greeks. They thought they were mythological creatures like dragons. And you chime in any time you want. From the Middle Ages to the 1700s, they were thought to be the work of the devil or God, creatures that didn't make it onto Noah's Ark. And this is an amazing story he's covered. A lot of these covers here are like not real. Like this dinosaur actually has fur in this story. Well, let me go back to this one. And there are no dinosaurs in that story. There were some kind of monsters on the dark side of the moon, and never really described, so the artist, Wesso, drew dinosaurs instead. So
you're not going to hurt sales by putting a dinosaur in.
That's us. Yeah, dinosaurs sold. About 1700 was when scientists started looking for fossils and figuring out where they were. I can't remember the exact thing about it. It's a pterodactyl, which really isn't a dinosaur, right?
No. And that's what kind of gets confused in a lot of these stories. They're kind of, we refer to them as dinosaurs, kind of lazily, but a lot of the early stories featured prehistoric reptiles, flying reptiles, and marine reptiles, which existed at the same time as the dinosaurs, but they weren't really dinosaurs. Our understanding of dinosaurs as fictional devices came a little later.
This pterodactyl, this is in Antarctica. They take that snowmobile, find this subtropical world, and this pterodactyl tries to get into the vehicle, can't, and he flies off. That's the end of the that's it. It's pathetic. So you have a bunch of guys, including Darwin. They start formulating theories about ancient life on Earth. This is Edgar Rice, I guess, draws a battle between an iguanodon and megalosaurus in before the flood. And my note says everything about those dinosaurs is wrong. Their skulls were too big, their limbs and dragging tails, the texture and scales, they're bizarre proportions. But this is one of the earliest drawings of actual dinosaurs.
As they believed they were physically organized. These are illustrations of Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins dinosaurs, who sculpted dinosaurs for the newly opened Crystal Palace in Hyde Park in England when was it? In 1854. So they had yet to get to the understanding that these fossils of these creatures they were finding, which they understood was an order of animal, which they called Dinosauria, but they hadn't got to the point where they understood that they were essentially bipedal creatures. Even the dinosaurs that we think of as quadrupeds, like Brontosaurus, had evolved out of earlier bipedal forms. So what you saw was a lot of interpretations of dinosaur anatomy as quadrupeds. And I just kind of emphasize this because they're not really exciting as a quadrupeds. It's much more exciting to have sea monsters and flying lizards. And that's one reason I believe in these earlier stories like Journey to the Center of the Earth, which I know I'm kind of jumping ahead. We're getting to that.
We'll get to that.
But you didn't see a lot of dinosaurs in the action. You saw more of these other prehistoric reptiles. And this is, again, just a representation of what was in a lot of the illustrations and a lot of the fiction of the time. This was typical of using the flying reptiles and the marine reptiles as the menaces in the stories.
So 1842 was when the word dinosaur came into existence. This is one of Waterhouse's skeletons that he put together.
But this is a later interpretation of it. He did not see them as bipedal at first. This is, I think, around 1900. This was reorganized as a bipedal creature.
Yeah. So the first pretty much full dinosaur skeleton was found in Jersey. Went on exhibit in Philadelphia, and it was really for about 15 years, it was the only skeleton in the world on exhibit for the public to see. So Philadelphia has a fantastic natural history museum, and that guy there is why they had it. They had phenomenal crowds when this thing went up. 100,000 people. I don't know, I didn't read how big the place, it was probably in a little house or something, but they were swamped, absolutely swamped by visitors, and that led to the Philadelphia Natural History Museum, which is one of the best in the world.
Yeah, that interpretation there comes from Dr. Joseph Leighty. He was the first curator of the Academy of Natural Sciences.
Yeah, they worked, I mentioned the artists in the captions, but yeah, you're right. They were working with actual paleontologists and other scientists.
He was the one who put out the idea that some dinosaurs were facultative bipeds in
Yeah.
four-legged animals that could walk on their hind legs like
Yeah.
that.
Well, you should be up here instead of me.
But these interpretations, these new realizations of how dinosaurs were anatomically articulated in the first decade of the 20th century really is what caught the attention of the public and created, it was quite the thing. Like you said, it drew huge crowds. The American Museum in New York also came shortly after this with their Tyrannosaurus Rex articulation, and this really just opened the door for the use of bipedal dinosaurs and much more exciting predatory menaces in novels and our beloved pulps.
And all thanks to New Jersey.
Yeah, and you can go across the river in Philadelphia's Haddonfield where they were discovered, and you can visit the site where it was a marl quarry where they were still there, and you can visit it.
So after the Civil War, the United States expands into the West, and that was when mother loads of dinosaur bones were found out in Colorado, Wyoming,
Montana.
that area, Montana. And this is an illustration from Journey to the Center of the Earth, where they come across, it's just a mishmash of bones, lots of woolly mammoths and et cetera, et cetera. So, we think of Jules Verne, Journey to the Center of the Earth. I always thought it was a dinosaur story, but you have Plesiosaurus, right?
Plesiosaurus.
And then Ichthyosaurus.
Yes.
That's as close as we come. They're actually sea reptiles. They're not actual dinosaurs.
They're contemporaries of dinosaurs.
Yeah. And this is when Hugo Gernsback reprinted it in Amazing Stories. Here's some more. Here's the battle between those two guys, and there's a pterodactyl up there. Again, it's a flying reptile, not a real dinosaur. These are all by the same artist. Really, you come to closest we're getting to dinosaurs is actually a dream sequence, and again, there's no real dinosaurs there. It's a mishmash again. There's even giant sloths and mastodons, which were contemporary to the dinosaurs.
And my understanding is that was not in the original.
Yeah, this was probably the 1867 revision.
They revised.
It came out in 1864, and then he revised it in 67, added some stuff.
Because people love giant monsters.
Yeah, so what is the first major dinosaur story? Now, this isn't a major dinosaur story, but I found it fascinating. It's a kid's book. This fellow, he's a doctor, he's an MD. His name was John Mills. He did a story about a Hindu priest or something like that who taught kids about science. And he did a chapter on pterodactyls. But here it is. This is an iguanodon, which is a dinosaur, right? And that is the first dinosaur I could find, and this was in 1854. It's called the Fossil Spirit. Probably hasn't seen print since then, but who knows? I don't know. All right, this is the frontispiece for the story. And that's a little quote from the book. What is that thing? Yeah, you know, you have any idea?
Looks like a dragon to me.
Yeah, you're right. So, 1882. So Sam Moskowitz rediscovered this guy. He was a San Francisco newspaper reporter and a drunk. He wrote a story called "The Iguanodon's Egg." They find two prospectors find an egg, and they decide, let's try to hatch this thing. I think one of the guys sits on it, and the sun cause it to open up, crack open. The iguanodon scampers out. He's about 12 feet long, And in the hatching of the iguanodon, he's about 60 feet. So Moskowitz finds this guy's stories. I think they were published in the Sunday supplement of, I think it was the San Francisco Herald. He actually should be considered one of the fathers of science fiction. He wrote about 60 stories. And his family gave him like $2,000 to publish a book of his stories. Instead, he used it on alcohol. One day he was drunk. He stumbles in front of the cable car, and goodbye, Mr. Milnes. That's it. So, but Moskowitz found out, rediscovered him, I think, 80s. And in tomorrow's auction, we have a few of those collections that Moskowitz put together. Pretty neat stuff. 1888, a lot of people say strange manuscript found in a copper cylinder by James DeMille. He was a Canadian. This was actually published about 8 years after his death. Again, it has pterodactyls, plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, and it does mention a few of our dinosaur friends. But
although he never mentions them by name, he just
kind of describe. Yeah, and that's one thing you see. They even later on, they just say dinosaurs or lizard or monsters. A lot of it, you just got to use your imagination.
Usually prefaced with terrible reptiles or terrible dinosaurs.
Yes. Swallowed by an earthquake, 1894. I think this takes place in Italy. According to, I didn't read this. It's quite expensive. It features just about every dinosaur known to paleontology of the day. Dime novels, Frank Reed. Again, he's looking for sea serpents, usually plesiosaur. That's one of the stories. There's a couple of stories. This is from Happy Days. The artist of this is unknown. Two young paleontologists discover a living plesiosaurus and other marine reptiles living in a Wyoming lake. I think they scare them away. They go back where they came from or something like that. This is a boy's book from England, and they find a warm polar sea inhabited by dinosaurs and wolfmen. What boy could resist a story about I know I couldn't. My first 3 Doc Savages were Land of Terror, Brand of the Werewolf, and Quest of Key, because I like Vikings. You're going to talk about this guy. This is Charles Robert Knight. This is his first painting. It's not a dinosaur.
Are we okay? Yeah.
We'll get to him more. It's later on. But
okay.
Just introduce him.
Charles Knight was an illustrator. Worked primarily for the American Museum of Natural History in New York, doing anatomical recreations of contemporary animals first, but then he started working with the paleontologists, and Leidy amongst them, and using his knowledge of contemporary animals to make some pretty good guesses of how the anatomy of prehistoric creatures would work. And that we'll see how important that becomes a little bit later with the dinosaurs. This is a prehistoric mammal. I'm not quite sure.
It is. It's an entelodon. I think it was I think it was some kind of pig, if I remember right, when I read up on it. All right. This is a pretty famous story. This is the famous Fantastic Mysteries abridgment of it later on in the 40s with Lawrence Stern Stevens cover art. This is about Atlantis, and it's pretty much surrounded by sea reptiles, but the story goes the hero of this story is narrating it actually, and this woman wants to marry him. He pisses her off for some reason. He gets exiled into the wilderness outside of the capital of Atlantis, and it's filled with dinosaurs. Again, all they say is lizards, big, it's lizards, and that's all you read. There is a translator note, because someone translated this from Atlantean, because the narrator wrote it in Atlantean. He interprets these big lizards. I couldn't see how he said it was a brontosaurus in one of the reference. It was just a big lizard. It was very big, and it was a lizard, and it was very big, and that's basically all he says. So, are they dinosaurs? Yeah, maybe. This is okay. One night, some monstrous lizard, whose sheer weight made the tree rock like a sapling, endeavored to suck me forth as a bird picks a worm from a hollow log. Now that wasn't the brontosaurus, it was some other lizard that was after the guy.
But interesting that he makes the comparison with a bird, because as we know now, the closest living birds are actually living dinosaurs. So, kind of unintentional, but, foresighted.
Here you go. The title is The Lizard. Before he wrote Lost Continent, he wrote this story about a guy who goes down in a cave and he sees this big rock and he starts kicking it and it wakes up. And that's what it is. I don't think there were dinosaurs that had little tentacles coming out from their heads with hands on the end.
Looks like a Lovecraftian dinosaur.
Yeah. But the fellow at the end of the story says, I don't go caving anymore, and anyone who wants to, I try to talk them out of it. So there's another one, Beyond the Great South Wall. A lot of people thought that was the first dinosaur story. Now, that's a brontosaurus up there.
Well, but it's a carnivorous brontosaurus.
Yeah, and it's this is a carnivorous brontosaurus. I think that's the only dinosaur in the story. He's a god named K. He eats everyone, and they worship him. And this is the original illustration of K. He could hypnotize his victims with his eyes. Are you all being hypnotized?
So, dinosaur or not?
Yeah. This is a later issue of Amazing. I just threw it in there for a picture of brontosaurus. There's that Diplodocus.
Well,
Well,
I think you're
one or the other.
Yeah.
This is by Frank Kelly Frias. So, a lot of stories have to do with the last surviving dinosaur that I found in the early 1900s. Here's the monster of Lake Lemaitre.
This one takes the cake for inventiveness.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about it.
Well, they discovered an Elasmosaurus on the American West, and that's not good enough for this story. The hero's best friend dies, and he transplants his buddy's brain into the Elasmosaurus.
True.
Yeah, and so it's Elasmosaurus with a human brain. Who knew they were so compatible?
Eventually the creature goes mad, and the army comes out with the artillery. U.S. artillery comes and blows them the hell away.
Which might have been a forerunner from all the giant monster movies that you have to bring in.
That's what you generally find. You find these last surviving dinosaurs, and we kill them. Boom. Yeah, and it's over and over again. I read in these early, they kill them. Yeah. This is a pretty cool story. This is a pretty cool story, and I recommend reading this. I bought a book preparing for this, Sauropods or something like that, which had a lot of very early dinosaur fiction. Again, this creature is killing the men. So what does the Captain Charles Jackson do? Dynamite, blows them the hell away. Monster Partridge. Now this is a very interesting story. This is supposed to be true. This guy was a world traveler, and this is a story up in Canada about a dinosaur. As you notice, it has fur. And dinosaurs in up near the Arctic Circle, doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, but this was supposed to be a true story, and it was about how he encountered a real live dinosaur up there.
But again, it's kind of interesting that he got the fur thing wrong, but we do know now that dinosaurs live pretty far north and pretty far south, and feathers. Not
that's
fur,
right.
feathers.
Right, yeah.
Gave them some insulation.
Yeah. Last haunt of the dinosaur. Oh, this is a really good. This was pure pulp. These guys, they go into the valley of death. You know, we're gonna get this devil that the natives are talking about, and well, the devil gets. I think the one guy gets killed. The dinosaur eats him, and the other guy barely escapes with his life. That's a really good pulp story, but again, it's in a British magazine in 1908. But you're going to talk about this because you read it more than I did.
I can't read boy, this is a wacky story that really deserves to be called pulpy. It involves dinosaurs. It also involves an underground world under Paris. It involves some really gory executions, and Brill from Bulwer Lytton's mythology stories of the magic fluid that gives energy to the universe. So it's got a little bit of everything. But this was one of the first times he actually named dinosaurs. They're actually used by, there's a Triceratops, there's an iguanodon, and they invade Paris. So this might be the first giant monster reptile lizard things invading a city.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's kind of anticlimactic. They're reanimated with I think he calls it a false life. They just kind of collapse after a few hours and die again.
Yeah, they were frozen under the city, if I remember right.
Flash frozen under Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a Black Coat Press reprint that came out in 2009.
But I'll tell you, if you bring those dinosaurs back now in the middle of the Olympics, you got something.
That would be exciting. Yeah, they might win a gold medal.
Yeah.
Oh, this is I've just shown. There's a quote in this story about a brontosaurus, and this is I have excitement. I can't find excitement, so I never got a chance to read this story, but I thought it was a cool cover. J. Allen Dunn's story.
That's a great cover,
yeah.
too, boy.
And that's Jerome Rosen.
Okay.
Which brings us to 1912 and the granddaddy of all dinosaur stories. Good, the Triceratops won. Yeah. The Lost World, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now we're at dinosaurs, pretty much.
Right.
So, George Challenger, he's kind of a grumpy old bastard, like all of us men who come to PulpFest. There's a plateau in South America where dinosaurs live with like ape men. This is from the movie poster of The Lost World, which was 1925. Doyle's novel and Harry Hoyt's 1925 film owe much to wildlife and paleo artist Charles Robert Knight. So
yeah, following up on Charles Knight here a little bit, when he got around to doing dinosaurs, he not only really wanted to present them as bipedal, the predators, and obviously there were some like Triceratops that were quadrupeds, but he also was the first to suggest that, hey, maybe their tails didn't drag on the ground. They weren't reptiles, they weren't lizards, they weren't alligators, they were their own thing, and they used their tails as counterbalances. And this at the time was not looked upon kindly, by and large, in the old guard of paleontology. But again, because he studied animals, he studied animal locomotion and physiology, so he had he had his own thoughts that this was, and of course, now he was also hedging his bets because the Tyrannosaurus in the background is the old-fashioned, very upright with the tail on the ground. But these very active depictions of dinosaurs, I believe, really engaged and got the fiction writers excited, because these were much more aggressive, much more dangerous looking animals now. They became much more, the land animals, the dinosaurs became much more exciting antagonists.
And this is one of the first representation. It's an Allosaurus actually here, fighting with the Triceratops, which is it's in a lot of stories, these two guys battling it out, just like in the movie. This is great. This is a great picture.
This is going back, this is 1897, so this is going back a little earlier, but this really revolutionized things, and he was really going out on a limb. In this scientific illustration, his conception of how active these animals were, that they could actually leave the ground, they could leap, and were super combative. They look like two cats fighting.
Yeah, that's so great.
That's great, and that, I believe, again, was so important in leading to dinosaurs becoming the fictional components that they became, the important elements in these type of stories.
And that would make a great pulp story, you know?
Exactly, exactly. In fact, you can kind of see, we're going to get to Burroughs in the Land Before Time, but he talks about the Allosaur leaping on. Yeah.
So the Lost World was serialized in the Strand, illustrated by Harry Roundtree. Here's a bunch of these illustrations that Roundtree did for the Strand. And here's Joseph Clement Cole illustration. It ran in a newspaper. One of the ads, a big thing about the Lost World, Willis O'Brien did the special effects, and 8 years later, King Kong comes along, which was another great dinosaur film. Hugo Gernsback, not related to George Gernsback that I talked about earlier, did a Science and Invention. He had a 3-part article about the special effects in the film. Pretty cool. Nice little storyboard. So this is in Science and Invention, not a pulp, but Hugo would found a pulp magazine called Amazing Stories not too far after. Doyle's novel, just like Sherlock Holmes, you can read them and enjoy them today. So here we come to Edgar, who was a major influence on many other writers. Cave Girl is not really a dinosaur story. It takes place on the South Seas. A guy is cast away, and she kind of turns him into a real man. Pellucidar. It's not really a dinosaur story. It's more about the Mahars, right?
You know, in the first of the series, at the Earth's core, close to the very end, some of Diane the Beautiful's compatriots show up writing things that I think are supposed to be brontosaurs. Yeah. But that's about it.
Yeah, here and there in the series there are dinosaurs, but they're like bit players, really.
Yeah.
So it's mostly about the humans down there and
the villains are again
Mahars.
Flying reptiles.
Yeah. They have they had reptiles like watchdogs.
Yes,
if I remember right. This is Tarzan at the Earth core. You have saber-toothed tigers, cave bears, mastodons, pterodactyls, triceratops, diplodocus, Tyrannosaurus Rex in the series. As I said, bit players, and they're all a mishmash.
What year was that? That's 30. Okay.
Yeah,
so
1930.
That's after. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little later.
So here you have a Triceratops on the cover of that issue of Blue Book.
It's a pretty decent representation of one too.
Yeah.
That's
Frank Hoban.
Hoban, yeah.
Yeah.
Does any of his artwork ever show up? I'd love to see an original.
Any Frank Hoban artwork ever show up out there?
I don't think it shows up.
So here's some of the book versions, the first edition. There's again of Pellucidar, and of Back to the Stone Age. I can't remember what that creature. What about what's Tarzan guys? Burroughs guys. What was that creature? Can't remember what it was.
It's got a funny marsupial pouch and it paralyzes people. It's not really a dinosaur, it's a weird monster.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
Okay, this is a Rush. This is from the Soviet Union, 1924, inspired by Journey to the Center of the Earth. Vladimir Obruchev's Plutonia. It's you know more about this than I do. This is kind of the land that time forgotten in reverse. They start up here and they go toward the center of the Earth. They start up. It's more modern stuff.
It's a little bit of a Hollow Earth story, much like
it is. It has
like
a central sun.
Pellucidar, yeah.
Yeah, but the closer they get is where the dinosaurs are. Whereas in the land that time forgot, which we'll talk about soon.
Yeah, it goes from the most recent times, and as they go downstream to the earlier times. In fact, this was made into a movie, a Czechoslovakian movie called Journey to the Beginning of Time, which has got some nice stop motion animation in it.
And here's a couple of the illustrations. They're very cartoony kind of stuff that were in the book. This is the big dinosaur story in the pulps, the land that time forgot. Notice the covers, beautiful woman. All the Blue Book covers that ran. The three novels came out. The three novellas came out the same year in 1918. All have pretty girls on the cover. There's a female aviator. I can't remember what the other ones, but they're just these covers. This is St. John's cover for the first edition. And it really is more so than a dinosaur yarn. It's about evolution.
That's the interesting.
Yeah. I personally think that Edgar Rice Burroughs, Zane Grey, and they were very, very, very popular. In fact, they were like the Stephen Kings of their age. They both actually wrote about evolution, and I think they helped popularize the idea of evolution in the American public.
The interesting thing about, and Burroughs was great at these wacky pseudoscience concepts that, I mean, The Moon Maid is like future history trilogy, it's great. But this was his attempt at creating his own story of evolution on Caspak, this very specific island that went its own way for evolution. And it goes back to, like, I think it's 1868, Ernst Haeckel, who was a German naturalist, came up with this idea that has come to be known as ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, which basically means that what happens in the embryo of all creatures, the stages at the development of an embryo into through birth into an adult is a recreation of what this species has gone through in evolution from its very origins as species up to what it exists as today. And Burroughs took that basic idea and went crazy with it. And I don't know, spoiler alert, as I imagine people
we can
know.
do it.
Yeah, he creates his own evolutionary this world where the humans on this world lay eggs that become microscopic critters that the ones that survive, they lay these eggs in the millions. Must be a great time for women. But they're very small eggs, I guess, so they evolve. Those that survive keep evolving through,
They get the call.
to fish, to reptiles, to amphibians, to reptiles, to mammals, up to eventually, if you live long enough, you survive well enough.
Yeah.
That's natural selection in this wacky world. You become essentially a modern human. But what a great idea.
Yeah, this is this is the one in the Jungle Stories. So this is the other land that time. That's a great dinosaur, isn't it? This guy, the beginning of the story is great. He throws they're in tornadoes. They're in the Arabs are trying to kill him. There's a torrential downpour. he throws everything at these guys, and I think they start out with 5 people, they end up with about 3, and then it becomes a love. They find the lost civilization. The princess falls in love with the white guy, and then it really deteriorates. But the beginning is really great. He really throws a lot at you, really pulp. But then again, it becomes just a usual romance in a lost world. Tarzan and the dinosaurs. Tarzan the Terrible. This guy he drew the cover art, and we'll see that a little later, for the Dark House compilation of the old Gold Key comic version of Tarzan the Terrible. You want to talk about this story a little bit?
Well,
It's in Paladon.
yeah, it's pretty good with him actually attempting to do actual dinosaurs. What are they called? The Triceratops are called griffs?
Griffs, yep.
Griffs,
Yeah, they're called griffs, and it's like he and Jane are riding them in one picture.
Yeah, it's actually I find it one of the more rereadable Tarzan stories.
Yeah. And here,
Those are two great.
here's a couple of, that's
St. John.
Korak about to meet up with some type of sea reptile. And here is Tarzan and Jane riding a griff. So he did it again in, I forgot the word star. It was originally called the Red Star of Tarzan. It is, Tarzan and the Forbidden City. Tarzan, in this story, he sees this guy about to be attacked by a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but the T-Rex is only about the size of a bull. And Tarzan, he gets out his knife, kills it. And that's pretty much all you read about in this story about dinosaurs. But he did revisit them again. Of course, you got Kygor, Kygor, who knows how to really pronounce it? I've heard it 2 different ways. So Kygor was the most successful Tarzan clone, and most Jungle Story readers agree that Stalkers of the Dawn World is probably the greatest of the Kygor stories. Of course, it's Lost World of Dinosaurs. Here you have Kygor's about to throw the chief down to the T-Rex. Helene is down there with a bow and arrow. So yeah, they were a tag team here. Here's a few more kind of dinosaur stories. The Bowl of Balls over there on the left in All Around magazine. I couldn't get any interior. I don't think it had interior pictures of dinosaurs. That basically has. There's a man-eating dinosaur. It's set in lost Mesopotamian civilization in the deserts of Arabia. There's a man-eating dinosaur in it. That's about all there is to it. Out of the Miocene, a 19th century man is transferred into the body of an ape man, and he witnesses a battle between a Basilosaurus and a Mosasaur, 2 marine reptiles. And in the Eye of Balamak, that's the reprint version, you have pterodactyls again. And they're usually just around to fly on. They're like modes of transportation. So we get to the 20s. A.A. Merritt and his Face in the Abyss, which started out as a novella in Argosy, followed by its sequel, The Snake Mother. So it's in the Andes, find a lost civilization down there, and it has small dinosaurs that resemble velociraptors, and they're used in the story as mounts, and by hunters and warriors. And there's also a T-Rex. And this is a Virgil Norman Saunders cover, Virgil Finlay cover, and this is a Virgil Finlay interior. That's a reprint version of the story. I can't remember where it was. Over here you have your T-Rex. This is really psychedelic picture. You have they're hunting down this Spider-Man. And I don't even think this is supposed to be the velociraptors that they're riding, but they don't. It's like an LSD dream, kind of thing. But these guys are hunting this. There's a lot of about advanced genetics in this story. So there's dinosaurs in it, but more for transportation again. Radio Flyers by Ralph Milne Farley and The Bridge of Light by A. Hyatt Verrill. Radio Flyers, a lost race of Norsemen and Eskimos that act like American Indians, like the Apache. There's saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, and an occasional dinosaur. And in The Bridge of Light, the narrator on his way battles a pterodactyl and a T-Rex, but after that you don't really see him. A lot of these representations I've found in the pulps of pterodactyls have these humongous eyes. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah?
I think a lot of these are taken off of the Rhamphorhynchus, which was a type of pteranodon. It wasn't a pterodactyl, it was another.
All right.
But they had big eyes and they had long teeth, which I think they used to catch fish, I think.
Yeah.
But they were, the thing is they were, I mean, a couple feet, I think the wingspan was a couple feet. They were small.
Yeah.
So again, just like ants or bees or anything, you make them giant and you got a story.
Yeah. Again, the dinosaurs are incidental. They're in the beginning and then they disappear. It becomes a routine lost race story. John Taine's The Greatest Adventure. Now there are dinosaurs in here, but they're not really real dinosaurs. They were created by an advanced race who realized, well, this is a mistake. These guys are bastards. They're going to kill us. So they trap them underground, and these modern 20th century pilots find there's a fissure, I think, in the Antarctic, and they fly into it and land, and this is what they meet up with. But again, it's really not. They're not really dinosaurs. This is another Taine story. Taine was Eric Temple Bell, a mathematician actually. Before the Dawn. This is kind of a story about a time viewer, and they can see back in time, and they see actual dinosaurs, including a T-Rex. Here's a few illustrations by Lawrence Stern Stevens from The Greatest Adventure over on the left, and the two in the middle are from Before the Dawn. They look like dinosaurs, don't they?
They're getting there.
They're getting there. Science and Invention, a Dr. Hackensaw's story has, this is about an electron world, and there's a dinosaur about to eat a princess. So what does he do? He pours sulfuric acid on it. And it's supposed to be nice, because he's saving the girl from the dinosaur. But he killed her anyway. So yeah, you call that mercy? All right.
But go back to that. That looks more like Jar Jar Binks from the story.
You are right. Well, it's an electron dinosaur. They're different on they're different on electrons. So this is the Valley of in the 20s. Weird Tales was your place for dinosaur stories. I found the Valley of the Teehe-Men is about it's a two-part novel. It's a typical lost race story, but people are terrorized by a Tyrannosaurus. Donald Kehoe, and we're going to come back to him a little later, Through the Vortex. He's flying his plane, it gets sucked up into an island in the sky where 8 men, dinosaurs, and 3 castaways from a dirigible are up there, and they figure out a way to get off with parachutes, and the thing, I think, falls to the ground. Pretty anticlimactic. Beast of the Youngest, searching for a diplodocus. His partner meets up with him, and he dies of fright, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Death of the Moon. The moon's dying. The Lunarians decide to come down to Earth. They meet up with a T-Rex who isn't happy about their visit. he eats them, and that's the end of their invasion. So thank God for the T-Rex is responsible for us. You know, he's the hero.
The T-Rex gets to be the good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy in this case. He didn't like getting shot with their heat ray. That was in this. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Harley Aldinger in Amazing Stories. The Way of the. This has been interesting. It's one of those stories, day in the life of a dinosaur, and there's a number of them in the pulps. This is also from Amazing Stories. There's the bottom of the town's reservoir falls out, and this comes up. So what do? They find a cache of nitroglycerin and blow the hell out of it. Yeah, they do that all the time. All right, Ed Hamilton, The Abysmal Invaders. Lizard men armed with heat rays emerge from under the earth, riding brontosaurs, stegosaurs, pterodactyls, triceratops, and T-Rex. And they hope to conquer the world. Will mankind survive? I'm not telling you. You've got to read the story.
And that's an illustration by the underappreciated Hugh Rankin. I have to give shout-outs to Hugh Rankin.
Yeah, there you go. As you get to the 30s, you're hitting the Great Depression. Weird Tales gave way more to the science fiction, and surprisingly, the hero pulps. This is from Doc Savage, April 1933, The Land of Terror. Here's another 1930s story. Harl Vincent's The Return of Subterranea. Oh, this mad scientist was going to conquer the world. He failed, and he's sad, so he wants to make things right. But unfortunately, he had sealed these creatures into a cavern, and they got out, and they caused death and destruction. But you know, they seal them back. End of story. When will mad scientists ever learn? Yeah. Ed Earl Rep, The Annihilator Comes. He wrote some crime stories involving dinosaurs, believe it or not. They're incidental, but they're in there. And they're kind of stupid stories, but it's a mishmash: mammoths, dinosaurs, triceratops, and there are humanoid creatures that have triceratop heads in Ed's stories. And again, there is a small sun inside the earth, just like in every other middle of the earth story. I don't think, did Jules Verne have it in Journey?
No,
I don't think he did.
They were just caverns.
Yeah.
He was much more realistic.
Like Fred in Astounding Stories, Prisoners of the Electron. I think that people get shrunk down. They go to a land of giant apes, ape men, and dinosaurs. What a hassle. The electron begins to break up due to a volcanic activity, and they're pulled back into the real world. John Fleming Gould. I didn't know John Fleming Gould illustrated for Astounding Stories, so he went on to, he was the main man for The Spider. Million years after. So these crooks, they think this armored truck has a great treasure. They find a rock. They throw it in the swamp. It hatches. Out comes that. So it comes, it's going to destroy the city. What do? Kill it. I think the army came out and killed it for him or something like that. Bruce Wallace in The Primeval Pit. A couple of prospectors up in the Andes find a valley with high cliffs, of course. They not only find the gems, they find pterodactyls and hunting dinosaurs. They vow to return to, they never did, because I guess they never wrote a sequel. This is, there are 8 men in this lost world, and kind of normal, regular run-of-the-mill humans. And there's a Tyrannosaurus in it. The hero wipes out the 8 men and gets the girl. It's a pretty bad story. Captain S.P. Meek, The Drums of Tapajo, I guess. 3-part serial in Brazil. This is a Frank Paul illustration. They have dinosaur watchdogs, which is pretty cool. And then there was a Troyana was its sequel. I believe there are dinosaurs in that, but again as watchdogs. This is the phalanxes of Atlans. I think a lot. This is a mixture of Henry Hudson's men and Atlantis. Have a lost world. Plus, there's the lost tribes of Israel. Okay, they're all in there. They don't like each other, and dinosaurs are used for combat and transportation. Typical lost world. Again, that's a Fleming Gould illustration. A. Hyatt Verrill's back again with The Moon Runs Wild. The moon gets closer to the Earth, screws up everything. There's dinosaurs come out, vampiric creatures resembling jellyfish that fly. Talk about the kitchen sink. So, again, dinosaurs are incidental, but the world, the time gets all messed up because of the moon coming near the Earth. There's another one into the Mesozoic, and When the Reptiles Ruled. These are both by Duane Carroll. When the Reptiles Ruled is a day in the life of a dinosaur story. All right, now, Hero Pulp's at them, but I talked to Chris and David Kolb. You can get this book at their table. This is the first Philip Strange collection. Phil fights a pterodactyl in this. Not a dinosaur again, but it's not even a real pterodactyl. It's fake. Those Germans, they knew how to fight a war. All right, that's why they lost, I guess. Another aviation character, Richard Knight. Is Matt still here? Matt Mooring? All right. Richard Knight also fights dinosaurs, but I'm sorry, I don't know the story. I just saw it on Steger Books' website. They're dinosaurs. There's the Wonder Stories, sea creatures. The southern United States is swamped by a tidal wave, and the city's drowned, but also dinosaurs somehow emerge again. Here's the Tomb of Time. It's kind of like a dragon up there. All right, Land of Terror, my favorite Doc story. Set in the land of, never mind. He's rich, so he can buy all kinds of planes and stuff. His former mentor is killed by the smoke of eternity. He trails the bad guys to Thunder Island, where they meet up with Tyrannosaurus Rex, Stegosaurus, Brontosaurus, Triceratops, and prehistoric beavers. And we're going to find that again in his other next dinosaur story. Monster of the Marsh. This is from Scoops from Britain. A creature like the Brontosaurus, who also has a carnivorous appetite, comes out of a marsh. Murray Leinster, Sideways in Time. Vikings have colonized America. Oh, this is mainly about time slip, the idea of time slips. It's probably one of the first. Vikings have colonized America. Dinosaurs roam the East Coast. The Confederacy won the Civil War. And the Roman Empire conquered North America. So there's dinosaurs in there, a real mishmash.
How does the Vikings are in North
Yeah,
America?
it's like separated. It's all like little enclaves. Yeah. And plus, it's like time. One time's here, one time's here. It's all mixed up.
All right.
So it's basically about, the story is basically more about time than dinosaurs. One prehistoric night. Oh, this is another one. The Martians come, they're going to conquer the Earth, and unfortunately land in time when dinosaurs, they get killed. Mars gives up. Again, dinosaurs saved the human race. Here's another A. Hyatt Verrill. Again, they're more incidental. In this one, Reign of the Reptiles, the dinosaurs are very intelligent and mankind is their slaves. Hothouse Planet, this is actually on Venus, one of the Jerry Carlisle stories. Hunting a creature that resembles a Tyrannosaurus, she tries to bring it back alive. She was like a female version of Frank Buck in outer space. Here's a couple of interpretations of her trying to capture the creature. Again, it's not a dinosaur, but like one. This is a big little book I saw, and this is there's no story like that. Readers were invited to submit their ideas for that story. I don't know if it was ever published, but it was they had to base it on that cover. So Doc Savage in the Other World. This is his second dinosaur story. Once again, they encounter pterodactyls and a T-Rex. There it is up there. And prehistoric killer weasels. Like before it was beavers, now it's weasels. It's actually one of the better 40s stories in the series. Henry Kuttner in Beauty and the Beast. Again, here a farmer finds a space capsule, comes from outer space. It was an Earth capsule returning from Venus. It brought an egg. He decides, I can make a fortune. I'll hatch this egg and raise it. Well, it becomes this. This dinosaur, this Venusian dinosaur, is intelligent. He learns language, and he's going to go tell about. This farmer also finds seeds, and he's raising the seeds and selling these beautiful plants that come out all around the world. Unfortunately, the beautiful plants are what killed the Venusians. So the dinosaur's going to the Washington, D.C. to tell whoever, and they kill them. So the flowers are left, boom. Again, the dinosaur's the hero there. But we don't listen to him. So we die. We would die in this story. So here's another Doc story, The Awful Egg, 1940, a few months after the Other World. It's really not a real dinosaur story. Two gangs are fighting over a cache of gold, and to scare people away, they come up with a fake pterodactyl and a fake T-Rex, but Doc solves the day. So it's really not a dinosaur story, but here's a couple of Paul Orban illustrations. So now we get to Jongor of the Lost Land, three novel series by Robert Moore Williams for Amazing Stories. Great dinosaur cover by J. Allen St. John. Set in the Australian outback. They're pretty good stories. There's Muir, The Lost World of Mew are the bad guys in this story. He eventually knocks them off with a dinosaur stampede. Here's a story, over there on the left is The Return of Jongor by J. Allen St. John, and here's a Frazetta painting for the paperback. Tomb of Time, intelligent dinosaurs try to preserve their eggs. This scientist hatchet, it's kind of like a Jurassic Park story. It reminded me of that. So in action stories, Fiction House's action stories, this is a Nelson Bond story, Exiles of the Dawn World. I think they're trying to do some cross-marketing here, get people interested in planet stories. They also had another story in the magazine about a jungle hero. Again, this is a mishmash, cavemen and dinosaurs. Another Doc Savage dinosaur story. I think that's the worst Doc Savage cover. Here's The Shadow. The Shadow meets dinosaurs. They turned this into a comic book series. There's some of the comic book. There's Paul Orban from The Devil Monsters. Another St. John, King of the Dinosaurs. The dinosaurs use human beings playing baseball. I think they use them as the balls. Written by J.W. Pelkey, who was actually Raymond Palmer, the editor. Another one, dinosaur. That's just part of the story. So we're getting up into the 50s. Times Arrow. And these are the stories about hunting dinosaurs. Isaac Asimov actually wrote this story, submitted it in 40 to Campbell. He turned it down. Most famous one, Sound of Thunder, in the Saturday Evening Post, Ray Bradbury.
The Foghorn.
I'm sorry, that was the Foghorn. This is the Sound of Thunder. This is from a Wonder Stories reprint. This is a pretty cool John Russell Fearn series from England.
John Russell Fern loved to use dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Parades
Yeah.
and parades of dinosaurs.
Yeah, first story, they're creaming the earth, and this guy saves them, and he comes back, and it's about how to raise a dinosaur in modern times. L. Sprague de Camp answers The Sound of Thunder with his take on time. Henry Slazar, producer, tries to get a dinosaur on Mars for film. Slazar also wrote 20 Million Miles to Earth. This is the last one. This is about wildcatting in the past. They're hunting for oil, but it's actually a plan to repopulate the world because it's about to be destroyed in a nuclear holocaust. So by '58, the pulps were largely extinct. Another fake cover. Be cool though, astronaut dinosaurs, but there's no story like that. Here's a couple of later ones. Writers are still revisiting them. This is Did Man Tame the Dinosaur in Fate magazine, Ray Palmer. And here's this guy. This is his Xenozoic Tales. We can only hope that both dinosaurs and the pulps continue to stir imaginations. I think they do. I think he does too.
I don't think there's going to be any loss of
And here's Mark's Tarzan the Terrible cover, and there's from Xenozoic. No, that's the original art, right?
Yeah.
And here's from Xenozoic. I'm sorry I ran over with you.
You're an Iron Man.
You've been listening to Pulp Tales, fascinating stories of the pulp magazines and the creative minds that brought them to life. Brought to you by the PulpNet. Learn more about the pulp magazines through articles, blogs, bibliographies, links, over 100 episodes of this podcast, and much more at the PulpNet. Your link to the pulp magazines for almost 30 years. Online at thepulp.net. Subscribe to Pulp Tales on your favorite podcast platform, or listen to us on the web at the PulpNet. If you enjoy our content, please like us or leave us a review. And tell your fellow pulp fans about Pulp Tales. Thank you for listening, and keep reading the pulps. Pulp Tales is copyright 2024 by William P. Lampkin.